Morning. Welcome to another round of coffee and questions. And what's today's topic? I'm going to talk about wood carving, wood turning, and some things that I use that have helped me. And they're really useful and they're easy to make either yourself or they're inexpensive to buy. So let's jump right into it. I've got wood turnings out here. I'll use those as an example. One of the questions is I had a friend that does wood turning, and the bottoms on his turnings, well, let's say this one, they're not flat and it sits there and it rocks. Well, an easy fix for that, it's almost common sense, but you might not think about it. I get a board, and this I've got 220, this is 150, and if you just take the wood turning, because you want to get that bottom flat, but like right now, let's say it's rocking around, you can just scrub it back and forth like this. Until you get it sitting flat. When you get it sitting flat, you can turn around and polish it up by rubbing it on the flat board here. And here's the 120, or you could put 320, you know, whatever you want. And then there you go. And now it sits nice and flat. So this is an inexpensive thing because all of us have sandpaper and you got some scrap board laying around. You could use whatever, it doesn't matter, some kind of glue or whatever. I've got some spray adhesive. I'll leave you the links below on the stuff that I use. I just put some spray adhesive, stick it on there. When this gets worn out, I just peel it up, chuck it, and I put another one on there, and it works real good. So this is one really handy little tool, especially for flattening out the work that you want to sit on a table and you don't want it rocking around. Okay, so that's the first tip. Second tip was somebody said, hey, you can buy these things online for like when you're doing wood carvings and hollow forms to measure the depth. Well, if you have a hollowing rig, it's got a laser on there that you're using, and you can use that to figure out the depth. But a lot of times on my wood turnings, when I start them, like on this, I'll bore a hole with a drill or something to the depth that I believe that I want, or I'll get real close to it. And then you look at the outside and you go, you don't know where you are. Well, I took a 2x2 right here and a dowel, and I drilled a hole and I made it fit on there tight. So I could sit here and put this in here like this and go, well, okay, and I'd make it touch the bottom, and then I just set it here on the outside, and that tells me where the bottom of this bowl or this hollow form is. This costs next to nothing to make. You probably got scrap wood laying around. So this is a really handy tool I use it all the time. This is years old, but I still use it, and every once in a while, if you want to, you could take the dowel out and put a little bit of Johnson's paste wax or some beeswax, slip it back in there, and it'll slide a little easier. And that's, you know, basically all I do for this. And it works really good. So that's the second tip on wood turning, that, you know, inexpensive tools. Now, the other thing is when I make the little finials, these lids, they're called finials. Let me zoom in on this for you. Okay, so the finials, like how do you make them so they sit in here, you know, nice and tight or snug, just like this. I use a pair of inexpensive calipers. I don't need anything super accurate, super expensive, or anything like that, and they're right here. Now, Harbor Freight sells these. They're inexpensive. Now, one of the things I would tell you if you're out at Harbor Freight, take it out of the box, okay, loosen it up, shut this like this and turn it on and make sure it's saying 0. Sometimes the tools and stuff out at Harbor Freight, they're like way out of whack. But this was one pair that I did the same little test with. I made sure that it was zeroed out. And you have a button on here for zeroing also. I make sure that these things work before I leave the store and get home with them. But these are handy because you can use these and you can go like this, and I know that that is how wide I want this top bottom right here so it fits in here nice and snug. Take into consideration you're going to do some sanding on this too. So you don't want to get too aggressive about it or you're going to have this really sloppy fit. These work really well. They're inexpensive. I also saw them on sale on Amazon. I'll leave you the link below. I believe the sale is still going on, but double check it to make sure. So this is another really handy thing to have, and it's not expensive, like I said. Okay, so the next thing I believe, which is a good deal, you get 2 for 1, are these padded sanding discs. I got these off Amazon. They were on sale at the time, and I believe they're still on sale. Now these are 3-inch right here, and they come with a pad. I can take the pad off if I want a real stiff surface, just like this. I put my hook and loop sandpaper right there, sand, and this makes a nice stiff rigid surface. If I need it to conform to, like, let's say I have this on the lathe and it's spinning and I'm sanding, this extra padding helps it conform to that bend. You can't get into real intricate areas with these, but these are real handy. You get 2 and they're very inexpensive, and I figure, you know, if I ruin them, well, I'll buy some more. Just don't press down real hard on here or you'll create enough friction and it'll melt the little hook and loop part of this. So let the sandpaper do the work. I mean, that's another quick tip, I guess. Don't press hard. Just let the sandpaper do the work, sand, go through your grits like I explained to you in the last video, but these are very handy. They come in 3-inch, they have 2-inch, and the 1-inch right here, I'll tell you, comes with 100 little pieces of sandpaper of varying grits. So these all come in handy for different little jobs when you're carving and when you're wood turning and you're sanding and so forth. So they're very handy, very inexpensive to have. Check the links below, see if they're on sale, buy them if you think you're going to use them. I think you'll be happy with it. Now the other thing I keep in my shop, and I make sure that I don't run out, is thin Tshya glue. It's not that expensive. Now this comes in handy. You can use this as a finish if you want to. That's another video. What I use it for is sometimes when I make these tops, some of these are made out of branches and so forth, and it still has the pith in them. And it's going to crack there, and I know that. But I've been able to stop and control, you know, the cracking on this by using Tshya glue and applying it to it. I'll show you what I mean. Give me just a sec. Okay, you'll notice there's a crack on this. Now the way I stopped it is before I started sanding, I went ahead, I filled it with a little sawdust and I put Tshya glue on there. It went down into the crack and it kind of creates like this concrete rock hard bond. So I don't worry about it cracking out any more than, you know, the way it is right now. But what I do is I finish turning the top, and then if you turn this over, you'll see that pith area. Okay, I also saturate that area maybe 1, 2, 3 coats. It depends on how much it sucks in. I'll saturate that also with thin Tshya glue. Now between doing it on the top and between doing it on the bottom, I've had really good success with it not cracking out anymore, and it gives it a little bit of a decoration that people think, you know, it's pretty cool. So I go ahead and I finish the tops that way. Also, the Tshya glue is going to come in handy for a whole multitude of things out in your shop that you're doing. It's just very handy to have around. Dries in seconds. Just be careful you don't get it on you. If you do, you can use acetone, or you just have to let it wear off, basically. But that's another good tip. It's really handy to have, like I said, for many uses. But I use it a lot in the wood turning and wood carvings that I do. Okay, now the next thing, and I buy these off Amazon, they're real cheap. There are these right here. Let me zoom in so you can take a look at that. I get these in packets when they're on sale. These are like hobby bottles. So what do I do with the hobby bottles is I mark them, like this one right here. I've got boiled linseed oil and mineral spirits in it. And I have a mixture. It's usually about 3/4 boiled linseed oil and about 1/4 mineral spirits. It thins out the boiled linseed oil, which you noticed in the previous videos I use on my turnings and stuff. And it helps to actually saturate deeper into the wood. So for the first 1, 2, 3 coats, whatever I'm doing, these hobby bottles are handy, and I label them. So this one I have, you know, like I said, for the boiled linseed oil and mineral spirits. I have another one over here. This has a stain in it that I made. And you can, of course, make your own stains. And this right here has got sanding sealer in it. And I have a fourth one around here that also has in this Minwax wipe-on poly. This is clear gloss. I like this stuff. It works real well, and again, you'll see in my previous videos where I use this. And here's the sanding sealer from Zinsser right here. I like this stuff too. I repeat buying these two products in particular because I use them quite a bit. I like the sanding sealer by Zinsser. The wipe-on poly comes in handy, but yes, I do lacquer, shellac, you know, and different polyurethanes. And of course, you can make your own Danish oils. It's usually 1/3, like let's say boiled linseed oil, you put 1/3 mineral spirits in there, and the other third you can get a quart can of polyurethane, and you mix it a third, and a third. You made your own Danish oil. It'll go a lot farther than just buying a can of Danish oil, of course. Okay, so those are some other just quick tips and side notes on things that I use and what I do. Okay, now when I'm wet sanding, and let's say I'm going to use 500 and I go up, I'll dry sand to 400. Now 500 and up, I buy good quality sandpaper. I told you in the last video I get it online. I'll leave you the links on all the stuff below. I buy Duragold when it's on sale, and this stuff works really well. So I buy good quality sandpaper. I don't buy that garnet junk paper from at Harbor Freight and these places. I buy good quality sandpaper, and I buy a lot of it off of Amazon also. And my hook and loop discs and so forth. Now the other thing that I buy besides 4/0 steel wool, and that goes on sale sometimes too, I don't know if it is, but like I said, links on everything below. But I also buy these 3M Scotch-Brite pads. Now the gray is equal to about 400 to 600 grit sanding paper. And if you follow me, you know I've mentioned that on past videos, but I mention it over and over again in case somebody's new. I buy the 4/0 steel wool, and I buy 2/0 steel wool. And I had a friend that said, why do you even bother carrying this, you know, 2/0 steel wool? Well, there are times where I get called away from working on these projects. More than once, when you put boiled linseed oil on, you let it soak in 15, 20 minutes, and then you rub it out and try to get off the excess. I forgot. When I came back to it, it's like a gummy, sticky mess. Now, if it's a thin coat, I might be able to use mineral spirits and loosen it a little, but mineral spirits sometimes isn't the best thing, and I've tried lacquer thinner and that didn't work out so well. So instead, because the steel wool is inexpensive, I'll take the double lot and I will just strip that project down because I have a lathe and it's spinning, and so it happens fairly quickly. I take it down, then I go and I just determine, okay, I'm going to start at 150 or 220, and I resand the project and start reapplying. And then, you know, it does happen from time to time, but it does come in handy, and I use it for that. Now, I also use Johnson's paste wax. Inexpensive paste wax. I've used it on projects, but a lot of times I use it to coat my bed lathe, the lathe on my, you know, the bed on my lathe, and I also, my drill press bed, my bandsaw, you know, bed, the table saw. I put it on wood. I do all kinds of different things, and it's inexpensive, and it comes in very handy for, like I said, a lot of things in your shop you may not have used before. I mean, if I clean up a tool real well, you can shoot it with WD-40, throw it in your toolbox. If it's something that slides like the calipers, I just put a little smidge of that Johnson's paste wax, I rub it in, the thing glides along perfectly. So it comes in for lots of different uses, but very handy. Now, if you like using foam brushes, I don't use them that much. I have in the past. The dollar store, Dollar Tree, any of those places, they sell them in packages of 3 or 4, and you know you can use them and chuck them. But you know, I don't. Pretty much most of what I do on the wood lathe and carvings, my finished work, I do by hand. But some people don't. They like to know, hey, where can you get inexpensive brushes? And Harbor Freight, you can go out to Harbor Freight, you can buy them in actually boxes. I mean, if you're using a lot of them. But okay, let's check out some of the tools in action. All right, here's that 2x2 with a dowel through it. Okay, see it sticks out a little bit. I just tap it. All right, then I can set it on top flush like this, and I know the bottom is about right here. And that's good enough. I mean, and it works great. The calipers come in handy when I get ready to make the top. I can go ahead just like this. So, okay, I know that that is the wide as I want the top. I lock it in place, flip it over, and this right here will start to tell me when I get to the right diameter of the lid I want to put on here. So very handy. So on this one I used sharp tools, and I got it damp with some mineral spirits, and I made real light cuts, super light. So with this I'm going to start off at about 150 and sand this. And this is a big enough project to where I can use that padded hook and loop sanding disc. So let me get a disc and I'll show you. Again, I get them off Amazon, but they work really well. Here's the hook and loop. And just stick it on there like this. Just stick it on there like this. And I put my lathe in reverse, going at about 200, 300 RPMs. And start sanding. Now I go through my grits that way till I get up to 400, but when I get up to 220, I stop in between and I sand with the grain. And like I said in previous videos, I clean it off real well before I go to the next grit. I use my dollar store glasses to look to make sure I got off all the previous grits scratches. And I keep working my way through them. But anyway, it was about the sanding disc. Very handy, just don't press hard. They work great. All right, folks, I'm the Home Handyman. I hope you click subscribe, drop a comment below, especially if you like these kind of how-to videos and what works for me. You got other tips, let me know, but I will continue making them as long as people are getting something out of them and you enjoy them. I thank you again. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you click subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.